And now, good mic work commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone. What is going on? Great to see you. Welcome to your Winged Eagle Podcast for March 9th, 2024. Pretty loaded one today because we have a lot of wrestling results to get into. We got WrestleMania coming up. We got Hall of Fame news. We have a lot of other wrestling news, plus Smackdown, Dynamite this week, yesterday and Wednesday, respectively. Both pretty fun shows, especially that new look Dynamite. Really felt like AEW was kind of ushering in this new era, kind of a kick in the pants, back to basics type of thing. Or is it? Because I noticed a lot of changes last week or this week on Dynamite that I absolutely loved that we're going to kind of get into today. And we're going to look ahead to next week's huge big business in Boston. That's going to be the debut of Mercedes Moné. We also have an AEW World Title match booked for that show. A huge one in Toronto in a couple of weeks, Cope Cage 3 for the TNT title. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Elite crew right now, especially with Okada coming in and turning heel, which was awesome. And like I said, a lot of big free agents coming into the company as well. WWE is in the middle of their WrestleMania season. They're kicking ass right now as well. Last night's Smackdown, maybe not quite as fun as the previous week, but we did get the Cody, Seth, Rock, Roman confrontation in the ring and the challenge for WrestleMania answered. A lot of fun back and forth between the four of them last night. And The Rock, I'm going to heap heavy praise on him again this week, just like I did last. He's going all in. I'm really pleased to see how invested Rock really seems to be. He's back in wrestling, and with him sitting on the TKO board, something that he's routinely bringing up pretty often, I think that, you know, this is going to be his future. You know, sure, he might go back and make some movies here or there, but I really think like this might be Rock's new endeavor. And just to see him so invested into it and putting in the time and telling his own story. Last week with the 20-minute Instagram promo followed by over a half an hour on SmackDown. And then yesterday he's at some rodeo wearing a fucking cowboy hat going, "Off is the direction you can fuck." What a man. What a stud. The Rock's too much. So he was very, very busy yesterday, and I'm just really happy that he's not like, you know, when WWE in the past has maybe brought in, you know, returning legends or the celebrities even, you know, they might walk through the whole thing. Rock ain't walking through shit here. He's telling a lot of story. There's going to be a lot of story told at WrestleMania, and you know him and Roman Reigns are headed for a showdown, possibly at WrestleMania 41. We might have some news on WrestleMania 41, by the way, we'll get into later. But I also think Saudi Arabia could be a good spot for that. So we're going to talk about SmackDown, and we're going to talk about a lot of wrestling news, like Bull Nakano and the U.S. Express, new names headed into the WWE Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about some of The Rock's influence on the Hall of Fame and his duties as TKO board member. We're going to talk about Okada coming in and his contract, Mercedes coming in and her contract, and she spoke on her WWE departure this week. We're going to talk about Kevin Kelly getting shit canned. We're going to talk about a Minnesota Mania. Dominic and Rhea Ripley got married. We'll talk about that too. Sean Spears back in WWE. Jim Ross with some eye-rolling comments on Vince McMahon. And like I said, SmackDown recap, Dynamite recap. We might touch on Raw, although we did do a Raw review this week. And anything else you guys want to get into in the chat, let me know. And good to see you. Happy Saturday. I'm ready to rock and roll if you guys are. Y'all know the drill. Please do me a favor. This channel needs the engagement, and likes really, really help that. So if you could hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. If you are watching this on demand later on, drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about this episode and whatnot. That stuff really helps drive the growth on this channel, and I need it. So that is what you guys could do for me. And I'm going to go over here to the chat, say hello to everybody. We have some very generous super chats hanging around in here already. Say hello to everybody, and then we are going to dive in to today's festivities right after I give you guys an update on our schedule this weekend as well. We got some fun stuff going on. Let's do some shout outs here. Let me see. Let's do these channel members, these awesome channel members who we love so much. Go over here. Oh, there we go. So I'm gonna make sure my screens are up. Good. All right. We got Mab. Good to see you. We also have JD Jones. You look like you're a new subscriber, a new member. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Isaac is in the house. So is Brandon McNeil, Jay Lambo, Sonic Plays, Isaac, and Luke McAllister is in here as well. Chaz Medeiros, Denny Downbad, Jay Wilson, and Mike Rouse. Right on. Good to see y'all in here, as well as West Coast Jams, Josh Garcia, Rodrigo. We have Ben Espinoza, Beetle 911, Big J, the Skyke, the Psycho, Guardian of Chaos, Danny in Oak Park, the new one, Arthur Jones, a lot of people chiming in. Let me hit these supers. My boy, my friend, my homie, Tomas Iridia, thank you for the $9.99. Thank you for paying for my WWE network this month. I'm kidding. There's no such thing as that anymore here in the States, but I appreciate that, my friend. Always good to see you here. I've been proven wrong. I love being proven wrong, he says. Revolution ended up being my favorite AEW pay-per-view of all time, and me and Sting's retirement got me right in the feels. This reset is the kick in the pants AEW needed. I thought Revolution was so fun. That was so great. And just seeing Sting get that retirement. And as I'm going to talk about later, Tomas, I really enjoyed this week's Dynamite. I just liked the new look. And how about that intro? Did that intro have some, shall we say, attitude to it? Very, very much like an old Raw Attitude Era intro. Love this color scheme. I think they did kind of the change already once. They changed up the Dynamite look to that red and blue stuff, which I didn't like. I was like, why are we doing Raw and SmackDown colors? What the fuck? And, then they had the white ring ropes, which I did like, and I liked it at first, but then it slowly kind of devolved into like a dimly lit arena. They're running smaller buildings now because the attendances are down. And just the setup of the arena just didn't have, a very lively presentation to it. And I understand that if AEW's focus is to focus on the in-ring wrestling, I get that, but I still think you need a good, well-lit environment, to produce your TV. And I feel like AEW understood that too. So we have another new set, which I loved. I love the intro. The tunnels are back. 2 big cock rings as your heel and babyface tunnels in AEW. But this color scheme and all of that, I really, really liked. And I think that's a step in the right direction. Plus 3 fucking enormous free agents coming in. Boom, boom, boom. Haven't seen 3 free agents come in at once like this since the Radicals 24 years ago. Seriously, Mercedes, Ospreay, and Okada coming in within a week of each other, or 2 weeks, or whatever it's going to wind up being, is incredible. And that's another big step for them. And this week's Dynamite was fun. They focused on other things. They had a lot of storytelling here that we haven't seen a lot of. So let's just hope that Dynamite can keep it moving, because one problem that they have had, especially with Tony Khan in the booking chair, is that once they start doing something right, it either just fades or they forget or it gets pushed aside or they stall it or whatever. They got to keep the momentum rolling. That's going to be key. But I agree with you, Thomas. It was good stuff. Luke McAllister's here. Appreciate the 10 from you. Hey, Greg, would love to see you do a collab with Simon Miller from What Culture. I have never spoken to Simon, which sucks because we're a couple of bald guys. I follow him, but I don't think I've ever interacted with him. I have interacted with a couple of the What Culture guys, but not him, and some of the Cultaholic dudes too, but never Simon. And I like him. He's one of the most positive, nicest, sweetest human beings you could ever find out there in the community, in a wrestling community that is a cesspool of assholes. Simon is a good one. So if we could ever get him on the channel one day, we will do that, Luke. Loved the ones you did with Jason and Brian after that Smackdown segment. Cody Rhodes is the man. Can't wait for Mania. Yeah, Rock, you knew Rock had a receipt coming, and he ate that hard. I feel like Cody Rhodes delivered as equally of a good of slap on The Rock as The Rock delivered to him at the WrestleMania kickoff. Brandon McNeil chiming in, channel member with a very generous $20 drop. Appreciate that, my friend. Tons of love to everyone watching or listening. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for everything, Greg. Well, thank you, Brandon, for the support. As always, happy to have you as a channel member and a listener. You are the best. Good to see Daniel Clark, Mohammed, Jay Wilson, Black Rain, Financial Truth Academy, Daniel Clark, Roman Stone, anybody else that is showing up here as I'm talking. Good to see you. Any more super chats that roll in here, we will get through those or get to those in between our next couple of topics. First thing I want to do is I want to thank good friend of the channel and host of Wrestling with Regret on YouTube, Brian Zane, Z-Man Brian Zane, the influencer who joined me for this week's YouTube collaboration. We had a lot of fun doing this. We talked about and ranked all of Shawn Michaels' WrestleMania matches. This is 1 week removed from the very successful collab I did with the Solid Monster last week, or a couple weeks ago. No, last week, where we talked about Bret Hart and his WrestleMania matches, and we ranked those. So Jason and I did Bret's Brian and I did Shawn Michaels, and that video is available right now. It was posted and dropped yesterday on the channel, so that's available now. So far, nothing but love on that video. It was a lot of fun to record that with Brian, talking about all of Shawn Michaels' WrestleMania matches. And Shawn has a much bigger resume at WrestleMania than Bret Hart. You know, Bret Hart isn't WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels is. And he had 17 matches at WrestleMania, including a handful of just appearances as well. And it was really fun to break those down, talk about our favorites. Our lists were pretty similar in some ways, but way different in others, where me and Monster were kind of right on line with our feelings on Bret Hart. Me and Brian differed a little bit, but for the most part, both of our lists are very fun, very interesting, and I invite you to take a look. The link or the video is right at the top of my page on the channel. There will be no collab this week. I'm taking a week off because I have 2 extra reviews to record for WrestleMania season, so I'm going to be doing that this week. And then the following week, we're going to be back for yet another YouTube collab. And I think you guys are going to enjoy when we go in Raw. So yeah, that'll be coming up in about 2 weeks' time from now. So that's what is going on in terms of Mania month. 2 more big reviews, another collab coming up as we get closer to WrestleMania. It's going to be a fun month, and I'm really looking forward to WrestleMania 40 weekend here on the channel. We're going to be doing it all. Hall of Fame, night 1, night 2, Raw after Mania. It's going to be a fucking party up in here. So make sure you subscribe if you have not yet already. Big watch along tomorrow. We are back for our Sunday classic pay-per-view watch alongs. We're going to watch the Mega Powers explode. WrestleMania 5 tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. We're going to be watching WrestleMania 5 over here on the Peacock tomorrow night. So join us as we watch the Mega Powers explode. I've been wanting to get this one done. I thought about doing a later WrestleMania, like WrestleMania 24, but I think we're going to postpone that one more week. And then as we get close to WrestleMania 40, we're probably going to watch WrestleMania 1 or 2 or something, like a super early one. But maybe the week from tomorrow, we'll do like WrestleMania 24, 23, something like that. We'll do something a little bit more modern. But tomorrow, we're going all the way back to 1989, when I was just 12, to watch Hogan and Randy Savage tear it up in what was a really good main event at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. So WrestleMania 5 tomorrow. Join us for that. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else I need to get into. We will probably be here for a Raw review, although I'm going to not guarantee that because last week not a whole lot went on Monday Night Raw. We didn't have a whole lot to talk about. So if Raw is kind of like a dud, or if there's not a lot advertised, I might take the night off and work on more WrestleMania stuff because there's a lot going on here on the channel that I have to record and edit. So maybe I'll spend that day working on that. We'll play Monday by ear and see what WWE has set up for Raw this week. So that is pretty much it for the announcements and the schedule for the week. Oh, also, I am going to do everything I can this Wednesday. I kind of didn't plan ahead for it because I forgot, but I should be fine. Most likely, this coming Wednesday, we're going to be here to watch Big Business together. I want to do a live watch along of Big Business, Mercedes Moné debut in AEW. I think that's going to be a fun show in Boston. Did not make plans to be off from work, but I think I can arrange it to be here. So we will probably be doing that on Wednesday unless something happens and I can't make it. I will let you guys know, but keep an eye on the channel for a link for Big Business. Going to be a fun week, I think, on the channel. All right, let's get into some wrestling news, shall we? Because it's a lot, and we have a lot to get into, and I would like to try to be done today before Collision airs. Last week, we did a really fun primetime Winged Eagle podcast. Unfortunately, I have to go to work tonight, so we couldn't do a nighttime one, and we went 3.5 hours last week on the Winged Eagle. This week is only going to be about 2 hours because Collision does air in about 100 minutes. Although the Collision was taped this week, I read the results. I don't think we're going to be missing too much if we tread into Collision's time. We don't want to do too much damage to their ratings, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's talk about wrestling news. What should we talk about first? Top of my list, WWE Hall of Fame. In addition to Paul Heyman being announced as the inductee, or the first inductee last week, WWE announced 2 more this week. The first one was well, actually, I don't know who was first. I think it was Bull Nakano. Bull Nakano was announced first for the Hall of Fame. Then a day or two later, they announced the U.S. Express, which is interesting. The U.S. Express was tag team in the mid-'80s in WWE, consisting of Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, and they were 2-time WWE Tag Team Champions. So they are going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. this year, and this is going to be a 2-time accolade, I believe, for Barry Windham, correct? Because Barry Windham, I think, went in with the Four Horsemen back in the day, was it 2012 or whenever that was? So Windham has already been in, so he's now been in twice, and I think you can make an argument for both Windham and Rotundo to go in as individuals as well. So Windham could technically be a 3-time Hall of Fame inductee if they do put him in individually one day. But Windham and Rotundo are going to be going in as a team. This was interesting because it's not the family member I was expecting. Right? I think we were all kind of expecting Bray Wyatt to go into the Hall of Fame this year. Maybe he still will, since he's going to have family going into the Hall of Fame as well. Maybe that's a package deal, or they can get them all in. But, you know, if Bray Wyatt was going to go into the Hall of Fame, you would also think that Mike Rotundo would be a part of that induction. And if he's going to be being inducted himself, I don't know if he's going to pull double duty there or what. Or maybe we're just holding out on Bray Wyatt and it's not quite time yet. Maybe back in 2006, they might have jumped the gun a little bit on Eddie. You know, maybe they should have waited a year or something like that. Maybe that's what WWE is feeling now. They're going to give Bray Wyatt his proper induction into the Hall of Fame. But, you know, his death is still fresh and he's got kids, you know, JoJo and everything. You know, maybe bringing them in there to do the Hall of Fame, it's just still a little too fresh. Might be a little too hard for him. It would be for me anyway. I might need a year. Before I go out in front of a whole bunch of people and talk about my dead father or my dead spouse, you know? So maybe this is something they're going to save for another time. And instead, you know, Windham and Rotundo are going in. I have no problem with that because I loved the US Express as a little feller. When I was just a little feller, 7 and 8 years old, I really liked that tag team. And I remember when they won and lost and won the tag team titles. The interesting thing about them, though, is that both of their runs were relatively short. Their first tag team run only lasted 69 days, and their second tag team run lasted only 68. They won the titles in early 85 and then dropped them at WrestleMania 1 to Sheik and Volkov. Won the titles back from Sheik and Volkov, I think in early summer of 1985, only to then drop them at the end of the summer to the Dream Team, who would then carry them into WrestleMania 2 and drop them to the Bulldogs. After that is when, after the US Express had their 2 title runs, that was when they were given the Rick Derringer song, Real American, which Hulk Hogan ended up using and still uses to this day whenever he's in WWE. So that song famously was originally intended for the US Express, and they did debut with the theme and used it a couple of times, but didn't use it for long because they left, or at least Barry Windham did, and that was when they gave the theme to Hulk Hogan. Now, I think prior to that, Windham and Rotundo were coming out to Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. And then right after they debuted the Real American theme, they left and went to Japan or something. And then Rotundo came back, but Barry Windham, I think, went to the NWA. And Mike Rotundo came back, and then they paired him with Dan Spivey as like a recreated US Express called, I don't know, maybe the All-Americans or something like that. But it was basically the US Express 2 with another tall, lanky, long-haired feller like Danny Spivey taking the place of Barry Windham. But there was no replacing Barry Windham. You go back and watch some of those early US Express matches. There's nothing quite like a young, spry, fast Barry Windham running around the ring, throwing drop kicks. Dude was one of the best to ever do it. Love Barry Windham. I love wrestlers like him. Barry Windham and Cowboy Bob Orton. Even though they kind of have different styles, like I hold them in the same mentality, you know, and part of my brain in terms of, you know, their size, the way they moved around the ring, the way they bumped. Very few people could bump quite like Ace Orton. He was tremendous. And Barry Windham was just very athletic for a guy that was tall like him. And I just loved the way he was just out there throwing them drop kicks. Dude was the real deal. And the team was great. However, when it comes to most decorated tag teams in WWE history, there's a lot more decorated ones than them. I'm really surprised that, I wouldn't say surprised they're going to the Hall of Fame, but their 2 title runs were relatively short. But then again, they definitely made their mark because I was only 7 and 8 years old when these guys were on top, and I remember them. So they were a big deal back in the 80s. 2 excellent wrestlers, well-traveled wrestlers, 2 great hands in the business. So maybe not so much as the US Express tag team itself going in, but it's the people that comprise the tag team that are definitely Hall of Famers. So this is going to be a 2-time accolade for Barry. Rotundo is going to be, I think, a minimum of 2-time Hall of Fame inductee at some point, because if we're going to start inducting tag teams and you're putting the US Express in, honestly, Money Inc. had a lot more success than the U.S. Express. So I feel like IRS, the IRS character could also go into the WWE Hall of Fame as a member of Money Inc. with DiBiase one day. So I definitely feel like that's a possibility for both. But either way, U.S. Express is a solid entrant for this year's Hall of Fame. So is the legendary Bull Nakano. Really happy about this one. Bull Nakano's a legend, man. Didn't work too long in WWE, but I think her body of work and her legendary status definitely earns her a Hall of Fame induction, and I'm happy that they're putting her in. Bull Nakano, currently, I think, age 56, started wrestling at age 15 in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, and would spend pretty much her entire career there all the way up until 1996, outside of one brief stint in Mexico in the early 90s. She spent all of her time in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, even did travel to WWE in 1986 with her tag team partner Dump Matsumoto, who she won tag team titles with in All Japan. They came to WWE in 86. They faced Velvet McIntyre and Dawn Marie. Not that one. And then she came back to the WWE in 1994 as a henchwoman for Luna Vachon to go against Alundra Blaze in that revolving door of opponents that Alundra Blaze had. She was the WWE Women's Champion, and I think she was the only woman in the company under contract. Everybody else, they were just coming in and paying per appearances, I think, if I remember right. So she did come in 1994 to face and go up against Alundra Blaze and try to win the title from her. She faced Alundra Blaze at SummerSlam in 1994, but failed to win the title, but would win the title at a fun show in Japan. So Bull Nakano would defeat Alundra Blaze for the WWE Women's title at the Big Egg Universe event held by All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling in the Tokyo Dome on November 20th, 1994. This would have been just 3 days before the Survivor Series that year. And there were anywhere from 30,000 to 40,000 fans there. There was a $4 million gate for this thing. This was a huge show, and it was a 10-hour, 23 match card. That's right. So don't complain about when AEW has a 3-hour and 45-minute pay-per-view. Okay, just chill. It ain't like it's 10 hours like this one was. And Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze represented WWE on this massive card that was 10 hours and 23 matches long, and Nakano would win the women's title there before dropping it back, I think, to Alundra a couple of months later before departing WWE altogether. She was also a part of the New Japan and WCW Collision in Korea event in 1995 that also had a huge crowd there of 150,000 people. And then she would head to WCW and rekindle her feud with Alundra Blaze, now known again as Medusa. They had a match at Hog Wild. They had a pretty good one on WCW Saturday Night in like 96 that I remember that was pretty awesome. And then she retired in 1997, but didn't really make it official until 2012, and has also had a side hustle as a professional women's golfer, qualifying for the LGPA in 2006. So she is well-rounded, well-deserved. Love that Bull Nakano is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, and apparently she claims she might have one more match in her. I mean, if Sting is retiring at 61, I don't know why Nakano can't have one more match at 56. I mean, hell, Mae Young was taking table bumps off of stages in her 80s. Why can't we stick Nakano in there for one fun match against, I don't know, some current WWE women's wrestler? Might be fun. Either way, very deserved accolade for Bull Nakano. As a fan of hers, I'm happy to see her go in. That should be a pretty cool induction. There is some news, too, on the Hall of Fame. This is courtesy of Fightful Select. They had an update on The Rock and his input in the Hall of Fame, and apparently he does have some say in what they do. The Rock, this is according to Fightful Select, and I quote, "The Rock is wrestling at WrestleMania, has a seat on the board of TKO, and has gained the IP of all The Rock-related terminology and names. However, we're going to be seeing his influence on WrestleMania weekend well beyond his scheduled tag team match with Roman against Seth and Cody. Sources within WWE have told us that The Rock has had input on this year's WWE Hall of Fame inductees. One indicated to us that would be evident One indicated to us that would be evident if the planned inductees are revealed as scheduled. We weren't given any additional info as to what that means. Another source said The Rock had input on all of this year's inductees, though we've not confirmed that to be the case. Then there was an update that said we have learned that The Rock's grandmother, Leah Maivia, is among the names he suggested. So The Rock might be working to get more of his family inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I can see how The Rock could have influence on the UX Express coming in, for sure, because Atlas and Rocky Johnson, the Soul Patrol, were there around the same time. I have no doubt that The Rock, Little Tiny Rock, was backstage hanging out with Rotundo and Wyndham for sure. So I could see Rock maybe suggesting their names, and then Triple H, of course, being such a historian of the business and appreciative of wrestlers like that, I can see him agreeing to that right away. So if it's up to me, just put Rock and Triple H in a room and let them decide. Just let them decide. I'm fine with that because they will probably pick some pretty cool names. So we will see who is left to go in. Right now, the way it's all set up, it feels like Paul Heyman is obviously going to be your headliner here. However, if they do surprise us with a Bray Wyatt induction, that will probably come last. And I don't know what other names we could get in. I'm still desperate to get in, Rick Martel, and I think there's still Bam Bam. Sid, is another name. There's still a lot of great names out there that need to go in. But in terms of in the past where you feel like politics might have played more of a role in wrestlers getting in as opposed to not getting in, I feel like even though that's something that's probably always going to exist, it probably exists less now than it ever has. So we'll see if we can start getting some of those long overdue names finally in the Hall of Fame. But like I said, the Hall of Fame's a shell of itself. I miss the old days when it would be like 6 hours long in the big arena. And now the way that the whole thing is set up and they're doing it, attaching it to a Smackdown, I just fucking hate it. But it is still the Hall of Fame, and it's still great for these men and women to get in. So that's the deal on the WWE Hall of Fame there. We've got, just reading some of these comments, James Gerhardt says IRS could be in the WWE Hall of Fame 4 times. I mean, he really could. When you think about everything, 2 different tag teams plus by himself, what else would he do? If you do, maybe with the NWO, although we already got the NWO in, didn't we? I don't know. I can think of 3, maybe not 4, but either way, a lot of Hall of Fame inductions for some of these guys. Let's move on to some AEW news now. We'll talk about some free agent signings, and we'll talk about Kevin Kelly. The first one is Kazuchika Okada in AEW made his debut on Dynamite this week. I fucking loved that. That was a great decision. We'll talk about it later, but Okada turning heel was the right move. I was worried that, him coming in, he would just be there and have matches and great matches, don't get me wrong, but they're actually doing something with him and kind of throwing us a curveball there, having him go heel, joining up with the Young Bucks, I think is great because that's story. And a lot of fans say AEW needs more story and shit, and this was great. This is something I was actually not expecting them to do, and it pleased me big time. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, too, about Okada's contract with AEW. Obviously, he chose to sign with AEW over WWE. Probably a lot of various factors involved there. Number one being probably the schedule and the money combination there. I think that's really where AEW is going to have an edge on WWE because WWE still has that grueling schedule that is not very attractive to people with families and whatnot. And a lighter schedule might be more attractive, especially if you can get paid more for that lighter schedule. And with Okada, it appears that it was probably a combination of both. There is some discrepancies on what his contract dollar amount is for. Tokyo Sports reported a crazy number of about $4.5 million over 3 years. That's crazy money. That's crazy money. Sparked a lot of discussion online. I don't know if it's worth it. Well, I got news for you, Johnny Fuckboy, bunch of numbers. Nobody cares if you think Okada is worth that money or not. You are irrelevant in the conversation. Does not matter. But it did spark a lot of discussion about that. However, Meltzer said this week that he believes that number is way off and it's not that much, but it still is a mega deal. And he is still making a lot of money with this deal. And it does sound like Tony Khan is shelling out the big bucks. I also think that's a part of why Mercedes Moné is going there because she's going to get big money for a light schedule. And she spoke on her WWE departure this week on the Kick Rocks podcast, where she even said that she expects to be back in WWE one day. I think we all assume that as well. But do you really want to be saying that a week before you're debuting in AEW? Because the minute she gets there, you got to already start thinking about contract extensions and stuff. Is she going to be bouncing to WWE? Do I want to, hitch the company's wagon to her if I know she's just going to leave anyway? So she's going to have to be happy and creatively satisfied there for that to even be a possibility. So, I think Mercedes coming in is a great move for the company, but it's all about how they use her and all of that. So Mercedes has to be happy. She did talk about her WWE departure, talked about how all that went down and how nobody there was in the room and nobody will ever really know, and she doesn't like it when people kind of speculate or assume things, which I totally get, but also said that she was proud of herself for standing up and proud of Naomi and all of this, and it was the biggest decision she ever made. And hinted, at her now heading into AEW and what her future is. It sounds like she still has a lot of years planned to be in this business, spanning multiple companies, and she's doing her thing right now outside of WWE, which I think is great. And I hope her AEW run is a success. It should be great to see her come out next Wednesday or this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite in Boston. Big business, probably going to be a pretty close to sold out house there for her. And we'll see what she does. Hopefully she just doesn't come out and wave and go away. Hopefully she gets right involved the same way Okada did, I don't want to I think you need to bring these people in and make a big splash right off the bat. Don't ease them in or wade them into the water. Just come in like you did with Okada. Boom. Make his intentions known right off the bat. Member of the Elite, heel, targeting Eddie, going to take his titles. Maybe Sasha or Mercedes needs to be the same way. And I don't know how you don't immediately slap her right with Toni Storm, because I feel like they will be the two biggest stars in the company. And if you can bring Britt Baker back into the fold, Thunder Rosa is back, maybe she can really, really help drive up this women's division. But that's going to be on the creative. That's going to be on TK. That's going to be on AEW. Hopefully it all works out. But in terms of AEW being able to land all three of these free agents, all three who definitely had a possibility to go to WWE. I was kind of hoping to see Sasha Banks save Bayley. I was hoping to see Okada have a WrestleMania match. And the fact that they both, along with Will Ospreay, chose to be in AEW, I think that's great for wrestling because it kind of balances it out between the two companies. Obviously, WWE is a jillion times larger than AEW. So naturally, you would think to a lot of talent, that would be the more attractive place to go because of your exposure and the level of star that you can become. But what's great about the way this dynamic is set up is that Tony Khan has the money. And Tony Khan can probably outbid WWE in anything because the only person that makes this decision is him. He doesn't have to ask a whole bunch of board members if it's okay if they sign this guy to this amount of deal. To this level of a deal, where in WWE and TKO, there might be a little bit more bullshit to get through if you really want to ink someone up to a humongous big money deal. So if there is a free agent out there on the market, WWE's got to really, really want them. Otherwise, it's going to be tough for them to justify paying them more money than everybody else on the roster. And that's where you can run into morale issues and stuff. Now, unlike back in the day, unlike back in the 90s when Eric Bischoff was using Ted Turner's wallet just to steal everybody away from WWE, it's not like that now. Tony Khan has got a big wallet, but not a wallet big enough to take everybody. WWE isn't on the ropes financially anymore the way they used to be. Back in the 90s, WWE was still small mom and pop, and Eric Bischoff had unlimited funds to access, where WWE was struggling to even pay their wrestlers at the time. That's not the case now. WWE is not having trouble paying anybody. So it's not going to be a case of Tony Khan poaching WWE's talent. That's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is going to allow AEW to be a definite possible suitor for anybody coming up for free agency. And if you wonder why we haven't heard about McIntyre's contract yet, maybe he's like, I got to at least listen to them. I have to wait until my contract's up and hear their offer. I believe McIntyre's staying put in WWE, but when you hear about these big money deals, you have to at least, wonder if wrestlers are going to at least consider that. It could prolongs their career, less wear and tear, mileage on their body type of thing. And it depends on where you are in your career, what part of your career you're in. might determine which company you sign for, but the fact that you have WWE, as the pinnacle, as the top place to get exposure as one option, and then another option that can pay you a ton of money, that keeps the competition healthy. And that keeps everything at least not so lopsided in terms of talent. In terms of what WWE does right now, their ratings, their attendance, their pay-per-views, everything across the board is huge and far superior to AEW. However, the talent is a lot closer, and that's going to be because Tony Khan has the financials to deal with. Now, I personally, as a fan who's been watching for 40 years and lived through all of that in my mid-20s, in the 90s of WCW, taking WWE talent, and what that did to the locker room and the vibe and the morale behind the scenes. Now, while egos still exist today, I still think the culture is so different now than it was back in the day, where I just don't think having a WCW type problem where literally everybody on your roster has an agenda, where literally everyone on your roster doesn't give a fuck, where literally everyone on your roster is just out for themselves. That's the way it felt like in WCW back in the 90s. Even if you're going to start getting these big money contracts, I don't feel like that's a culture that's going to seep into pro wrestling today in modern times. Sure, you're going to have egos. Sure, you're going to have people in it for themselves, just in it for the money, not a team player, whatever. Those people are always going to exist. But during the WCW days, you would see people just walking through pay-per-views, walking through matches. We would be brutalized as fans on Nitro and pay-per-view. Even when Nitro and WCW was kicking the shit out of WWE in the ratings, WWE's pay-per-views were still far superior. And I feel like that is just not something that is the same now. If AEW has an advantage in terms of being able to spend money and just shell out any sort of money just to outbid WWE, that's great, but you're not buying the Hogans and everybody else that are just going to come out there and do what they want, take and suck everything they can out of the company and then leave, because AEW's pay-per-views deliver every fucking time. Their in-ring product, the crazy shit that they do is still spectacular. They got some creative issues. They have some behind-the-scenes issues. They've had some stalls in their product in the, in interest, I should say, and enthusiasm in the crowd, a lot less fans attending these shows and whatnot, but that can easily change. We just saw that. You don't have to look any further than WWE. Not 5 years ago, back in 2019, we were all posting pics of the empty hard cam side too, weren't we? So those of you who whack off and post pics of the hard cam side on AEW, just know how pathetic you are. Extremely fucking pathetic, and you need to get real problems and something to really care about that's real. Not this, because all it takes is one thing, one storyline, one wrestler, or the product just to get moving in the right direction all at once, just like WWE started doing when they booted Vince's wrinkly, perverted ass out of there. And look how better the product got, and look at where they are now. SmackDown's preliminary ratings for last night were like 2.3 million. They're selling out everything. They're selling out TVs. There was a time where I swear to God, 3,000 people were at Raw as well. Raw and SmackDown were pulling in Dynamite numbers just a couple of years ago. So you have to be a fool to think that AEW could never recover from this and they're in the mud and blah, blah, blah. How stupid are you? Are you not a wrestling fan? Do you not watch what's out there? Have you not seen with your own two fucking eyes just in the last 2 or 3 years alone how drastically the momentum can change so quickly? A couple of years ago, AEW was all the rage. WWE was in the shitter. Vince McMahon gets in trouble. Brawl Out happens. And then, and then a year later, nothing gets better with CM Punk. He leaves, Cody leaves, Jade leaves. Then we have Brawl In. Shit's hitting the fan there at the same time that WWE is hitting their stride. Vince is gone. Creative is good. Cody's over like a rover. Whole bunch of over baby faces. Fucking Gunther. I mean, Bloodline, The Rock is back, just crushing it. And look how quickly that happened. Within a blink of an eye, WWE went from being in the bottom of the toilet to selling out everything, selling out live events. These guys are doing $12K for live events. That's fucking incredible. That's great. And that right there is your evidence that it can happen at any time. So AEW could easily start figuring it out, or just like WWE has so many times in their history, fall ass backwards into some great angle. Think about what the curtain call did for that company. The curtain call got Triple H in trouble. We got Austin at King of the Ring. We got Austin 316. We got the t-shirts. Boom, completely by accident. Screwjob, same thing. Screwjob happens. Brett's gone. Then it's Austin time, and the Attitude Era can really be ushered in. Even with Shawn leaving, DX being able to get over in that way and become baby faces, allowing people like The Rock and other wrestlers to get over. All of WWE's really amazing achievements have all come by accident. None of them have been by design. None of them. Even Hogan coming in. That was because, Vince Sr. blackballed him from WWE. He would have never been back had Vince Sr. not gotten sick and sold the company to his son. And then Vince is like, hey, Hulk, why don't you come on over here? And also let me just buy everybody else in AEWA while I'm at it. And then we're going to change the world. And that's what happened. So it can happen anytime, anywhere, if AEW can start getting it right and not squander it. Because they've started to get it right a couple of times and squandered it. If they can keep the momentum going, then I think they can easily turn the corner, because if your product is good and you have over wrestlers that the fans are engaged, interested in, and want to see, your attendance will reflect that. Like I said, you don't have to look any further than WWE. This isn't going to happen overnight. So if AEW does a low attendance number next week, don't say, you're wrong, Greg. Well, actually, they're not going to do one for big business. It's going to be a huge show. But if Dynamite the week after, well, actually, they're not going to do a low number there either, because they're in Toronto, Cope Cage 3. So the next time Dynamite has 3,500 fans, it takes some time. It's not going to be an overnight thing or a 2-week thing. This has to be a gradual thing. And if they can start doing things right and getting things that fans are interested in, moving away from the punk drama and all that stuff and putting it all behind them and finding new things to focus on, and fans getting invested in new ideas, new stories, new wrestlers and whatnot, then you might have something. And all that's going to do is create healthier competition for us. Being tribal is idiotic. It's fucking idiotic. And I feel like fans really rob themselves of a good time because they're too busy running to people like Cornette so they can be told how to feel about something. Better tag Cornette in the Darby bump. Got to tag him. I can't decide for myself how I feel about it. I have to listen to him so I know how to feel. How pathetic is that? And that shit is everywhere out there in wrestling. So I think the free agents coming into AEW are good. I'm hoping that this ushers in a new era. I hope this is a kick in the pants that they need, turning the corner, getting fans back interested again. Because even myself, I've gone a couple of weeks where I haven't really watched Dynamite. In a couple of weeks, I didn't even look at Collision. I want that to change. I want to be interested in those shows and more interested in those shows. And I think this past week's Dynamite and Revolution last week was a good reminder of what AEW can really do right. And if you don't like glass bumps and guys flying off, shit into thumbtacks, then watch WWE. I want two competing cable television wrestling products to be different. I want one wrestling company to be the one where you see crazy shit, and then the other one can be WWE. What is wrong with that? That's good. That's healthy as a wrestling fan. That's healthy. It gives you variety. If you just want one thing and one type of competition and that's it, or one type of wrestling and nothing else, I think you're robbing yourself of a good time. I don't know why you're doing that to yourself. So I feel like good moves were made this week in AEW. Here's another good move they made. They shit-canned Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly got fired. Kind of saw this coming. I watched this whole thing unfold last week. I forgot what day it was, but I'm watching Kevin Kelly respond to these tweets like as they're happening. And I'm like, he's throwing some shade here at his own people. I think it was last Saturday, right before we did the Winged Eagle, because I think we talked about it. Because he was on Collision that night, because I think that was a tape show. Collision was taped this week as well. But Kevin Kelly has been let go by AEW for running his mouth on Ian Riccaboni on Twitter last week. So he responded to some tweets last week claiming that he was benched in AEW due to being libeled by Ian, which is crazy. Kelly has always been, outspoken. I've always liked Kevin Kelly's work. I never had a problem with him as an announcer or anything like that. But over the past year or two, the more and more I read of his social media, the more of his likes that I see and the people he follows, the less appealing he became to me. But I still didn't have any issue with his wrestling announcing style. He was very good about educating us about who people are and whatnot and their backgrounds. But, that's also what Excalibur is for. But he's had an issue ever since, kind of being bumped. He was going to be the lead play-by-play guy on Collision, I believe, and that's when they brought in Shivani and made it a 3-man booth with Tony, Kelly, and Nigel. So this has upset Kelly for a long time. Apparently, he has blamed Ian Riccaboni for this. This is stemming from comments that Ian made, I guess, on Discord, commenting on Kevin Kelly's promotion of QAnon movies and shit. So he's one of them, reads Babylon Bee, that type of thing. So Ian apparently didn't even really know how Discord worked and didn't even know that, wasn't even sure if the comments were public or not, but he still stood by them, but admitted, yeah, I made those comments and I didn't really understand how Discord works, but I stand by what I said. And Ian Riccaboni has had undeniable support from all of his peers and the community. Nobody here is on Kevin Kelly's side, other than the asshole armpit of Twitter, which you would expect. But the rest of the people, the normal people, the nice people, they are pretty much in support of Ian Riccaboni, and nobody seems to be shedding too many tears that Kevin Kelly got let go. And to be fired by AEW, it takes a lot to get fired by AEW, does it not? We've seen some people do some shit and somehow survive being fired. One person in particular, by the way, I didn't write this down in my notes because I forgot, but I'm remembering now, Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara apparently reportedly has been suspended by AEW for that match he had, I think, a week or so ago on Rampage against Jeff Hardy. Was it Rampage or Dynamite? Against Jeff Hardy, where Hardy got concussed, but then Sammy went ahead and hit him with his GTH or whatever. And apparently Hardy at that point was already in concussion protocol and Sammy didn't follow protocol. So I guess he shouldn't have executed that move. That's what the feeling is. And he got suspended for that. So if you're being suspended for something like that, I mean, this is a guy who his boss, Tony Khan, was dancing at his wedding, so everybody has felt like Sammy and Tony are close and tight and whatnot, but Sammy's been suspended now, I think twice. This time isn't for a behavioral thing, but maybe for something he did in the ring that was inappropriate once it was determined that somebody might have a concussion. So it was probably just an accident. I don't think Sammy Guevara was deliberately trying to hurt Jeff or disobey any orders or edicts. But then again, if the company sent out some memo, hey, if somebody is concussed and the referee or the doctor is checking on him, you have to follow these procedures. If you don't, it's an automatic suspension. That's probably why he got suspended. So not sure how long that suspension is for, but when you think about someone like Sammy Guevara, a couple of behavioral issues and suspensions, Jungle Boy, who's currently working out his curtain call punishment right now with his group in New Japan, nobody's really getting fired. So this was enough to just get Kevin Kelly out of the company, apparently, and he is gone from Ring of Honor shortly after he left the New Japan American commentary team. So not sure what the future will hold for Kevin Kelly. No personal issue against him, so we wish him well, but kind of not surprised that he's gone after you run your mouth like that, especially to a bunch of nobodies on Twitter. What's next on my list? Oh, yeah, let's talk about WrestleMania, man. It looks like my dream of WrestleMania 41 being in Vegas so I can go and hang out with all of you is not to be. Feels like it's going to be Minnesota. Shout out to Rob Wilkins of Fightful, who posted on Twitter a video of a hearing this week that took place in the Minnesota State Capitol, where Minnesota Sports and Events CEO Wendy Williams hinted that WrestleMania is, in fact, coming to Minneapolis in 2025. She was reading off some things that the city is attempting to do, and the final sentence here was a hint to that, and I quote, here's what she said, and I quote, "We do have a third event that we are almost ready to announce. I hope that we had been able to announce it today, but we can't quite yet. But we will be sharing that news in the next few weeks. This event will provide an economic impact second only to the Super Bowl." What else can it be? What else can it be? That's WrestleMania. WrestleMania is going to Minneapolis. If you live in Minneapolis, congratulations. I'm glad you're getting a WrestleMania. It sounds like it's a done deal. I don't know what the fuck else they're talking about. Are they bringing the Beatles back to life? I don't know what could rival the economic impact of a Super Bowl other than something like this, especially a whole week-long, event full of festivities, people coming in, spending their money. Hell yeah. So it feels like that's a done deal. It's disappointing on one hand because I really wanted to go to Vegas, but I'm happy for Minnesota. It's a nice facility there, apparently. Now, one thing that raises my people's eyebrow about that is that if WWE is going to do Rock and Roman Reigns, I just don't know if Minneapolis is that setting. I mean, it could be. It's still, the city is secondary. It's the event that's important. It's WrestleMania. But I feel like if you're going to do a match, a box office draw match like Rock and Roman Reigns, that is a Miami or Vegas or maybe even New York type of setting for something like that. But I feel like Miami, Rock's hometown, or Las Vegas, where all the big money fights happen, those would be like better markets for a match like that. Minneapolis is just weird, you know? I mean, it's too bad that it's so many years later now. They could do a huge AWA themed Hall of Fame, but I think everybody's fucking dead from those days. Greg Gagne is still with us, but shit. Everybody else there has already been put into the WWE Hall of Fame, even Vern and everybody else. So it would be cool if there was some AWA throwbacks when they go to Minneapolis next year, but either way, that's good for the city. I'm happy for them. And, you know, maybe Vegas will still get a WrestleMania in the future. But if Minnesota is going to be the setting for Mania, I'm not sure if that's the market for Rock and Roman. If Minneapolis is getting Mania, I feel like Rock and Roman is going to happen before then in Saudi Arabia or something like that. So we'll keep our eye on it. But it sounds like it is going to be a Minnesota Mania in 2025. Big, huge congratulations go out to Judgment Day members Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, real name Marie, got married the other day, I think maybe here in San Diego. I don't know where the location was, but there was videos and photos posted all over social media of Dominic and Rhea celebrating. Looks like Damian Priest was Dominic's best man. And that was I'm so happy for him. And I love Rhea's style. You know, she's getting married wearing red. That's my girl. And there was a video floating around of people are like, what's going on? Dominic is dancing with his mom. They're doing like a mom and son dance at his wedding. But the video was a little bit grainy. That's actually not his mom. That's his aunt. His mom has a twin sister. So he was actually dancing with his aunt because his parents were not invited. And if you notice, you didn't see any videos or photos of Rey Mysterio being there. So Dominic would never invite his shitty fucking parents to his wedding of Rhea Ripley. And he chose to dance with his aunt instead. So congrats to Dominic and Rhea. I'm so happy for you guys. Can't wait to see you on Raw on Monday. Shawn Spears is back in WWE. We failed to mention this last week. I did want to acknowledge that. He showed up in NXT, and he is not Ty Dillinger. He is Shawn Spears. So WWE has even trademarked the name. I thought that was his real name, but I guess they've trademarked Shawn Spears. I don't even know Shawn Spears' real name, and not really sure what he's going to be doing there yet, but being in NXT might be a good spot for him. You know, he had to spend a lot of time there as a worker, and he can still have some matches and maybe transition into a training role there somewhere perhaps. But interested to see what he does. I've only seen that one TV appearance of his so far after being back in WWE. So we'll see how much more we see of him in the future, but I think it's cool that he's back in there. I'm cruising here to the chat just to peek real quick before we get into our next order of business. I'm going to knock out these super duper chats here. We have just a couple of them from Spectra, who's hitting us with $5. Thank you so much for that, dude. Happy weekend, Greg. Guessing I missed your Okada heel turn thoughts. Do you think Okada swerve for the All-In main event or Okada Omega 5? No, you haven't totally missed my comments on that yet. We're going to be talking about Dynamite in just a minute. Ospreay versus Swerve, I'm not sure. I feel like the All-In main event has so many possibilities. After seeing Will Ospreay come into the company, I said it would be within 2 years that he will be AEW World Champion. I'm probably overshooting that. It's probably 1 year. He's going to be the real deal. Ospreay and Swerve would be a great one, but so would Okada Omega 5. They both sound good to me. I feel like Swerve is going to win the title before All In, so if he does have a title match at All In, I believe he will be champion. And Okada Omega 5 seems like they're definitely setting that up because Omega is still out. He's been fired. Okada's a heel now. So by the time Omega is healthy, comes back, could be All In time, and he could be targeting Okada. I like it. I like it, Spectre. Alex Schmidt has got 2 for us. Thoughts on Tyson and Paul along with it on Netflix. I forgot about that. All I've seen is pictures of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. They're actually going to box, and it's going to be on Netflix. I hope Tyson fucking kills him, but wasn't he walking around with like a cane and shit? So I don't even know if Mike Tyson loses to a goddamn internet fuck, I'm going to die, but it's probably what's going to happen. The Juliet is here. She's hitting us with $5 and gifting out a Good Micro Commentaries membership to Danny in Oak Park. The Juliet, as always, thank you so much for that. And thank you for the $5. Roman looks like he's laughing in still of The Rock getting slapped. He does. I noticed that too when I was making my thumbnail. Rock and Roman, they're going to clash, man. They are going to clash. All right, let me get back to the news here. Let's talk about Jim Ross. Jim Ross made some comments this week on Vince McMahon. And as soon as I saw this, I'm like, I don't even want to click on it. I don't, because I know it's going to suck. Jim Ross, God bless him. But as soon as I saw Jim Ross comments on the Vince McMahon situation on grilling JR, I'm like, I don't even want to read it. I don't want to read it. But I did. And I'm only going to read you a paragraph. These transcripts come courtesy of our friends at Fightful.com. Here's what JR said on grilling JR when Conrad asked him about what's going on with Vince McMahon and how he feels about it. And I quote, "Lots of change afloat. Personally, I'll be glad when the winds have swept that change on through." I can't do his voice. "I'm tired of it. It's embarrassing in a lot of ways that it's happened this way. It's affected a lot of innocent people. That's my take on it. I might be wrong. It's time to move on." It's always moving on with them, isn't it? It's time to move on and cause rest and peace for some people, but it's time to move on. Okay, we get it. It's time to move on. "I never believed that Vince McMahon would allow his company to get this out of control, and it has. I don't think it's out of control at all. I think it's in control. What the fuck is JR talking about? I feel badly about that," he says. "I know how much WWE meant to Vince. I'm sure it still does. I'm sure it still does. It's time. Let's move on." So he's all about moving on. Not once did he condemn Vince McMahon. Not once did he say Vince McMahon is getting everything he deserved. And not once did he say he was disgusted with the behavior of Vince McMahon and he's embarrassed for the company because of how gross he was. It's all about moving on. And I mean, I don't know what it is. I understand that a lot of people worked alongside Vince for many years. You form a relationship with him. You're going to have an element of loyalty there for sure. I understand that, especially with some of these older, folks that, are just a little bit, living in a different time and shit. You can expect they're going to say some eye-rolling crap, right? And that's fine. But you at least have to acknowledge how fucking disgusting that behavior was. And you cannot even a little bit condone this at all. And when you're so just focused on what you just want to move on, that means you feel bad that it's happening for him and you want it just to be over with so you can forget it. You should have no remorse or sympathy for this piece of shit. Think about how Vince McMahon has acted and behaved in his life. Does this appear to be a guy that has ever had any remorse or sympathy for anyone? The things he's done, and Jim Ross, of all people, who was bullied mercilessly is what I'm trying. Mercilessly by Vince McMahon for decades on TV in front of the fans. Shit on a regular basis, mocked on a regular basis, and you still can't muster up enough barbecue sauce to say that Vince McMahon deserves what he's getting right now. He deserves to be ousted from his company, and if it does tear him up inside to watch somebody else own it, well, guess what? Look in the mirror, Vincent Kennedy, because you are the one to blame for this. Nobody else but you. And for JR to act like this is some tragedy, I feel so bad for what's happening to Vince McMahon. It's Jim Ross. You got to give Jim Ross a pass. He does not live in 2024. He lives in 1984. And that's just the way he is. It's fine. I don't care. I have to be able to read these comments from certain people, knowing they're going to suck and knowing I'm going to roll my eyes on them, about them, without having to obsess too much about it. Because if you do that, you're going to be tweeting forever, you're going to be talking forever, and it's just not worth it. So there are going to be some people that just aren't going to be able to form the right sentences to properly say what they need to say about Vince McMahon and his disgusting behavior. Jim Ross hasn't been the first one to kind of give an answer like this. We just heard the same fucking thing from John Cena, and his was even worse. He was, I gotta be there for my friend and support my friend. He's got a hill to climb. Oh yeah, he's got a hill to climb, all right, John Cena. Jim Ross didn't really say that. He just basically said, I feel bad for Vince that he's lost his company. I guess maybe they're both equally bad, but it's responses like that you're gonna read, you're gonna hear and see, and they're just gonna be fucking idiotic. So what can you do? Jim Ross is the latest person to have an eye-rolling response to the Vince McMahon allegations. And Jim Ross won't be the last one to have that. All right. That gets us down to SmackDown. Let's talk about SmackDown last night. Fun stuff on SmackDown and some big news. Big news on SmackDown. This is kind of big. Logan Paul opened up SmackDown last night and announced that his company, Prime Hydration, has partnered with WWE to be the first ever center in-ring sponsor at WrestleMania, starting at WrestleMania, I should say, and going forward on every PLE from now on. That's big. He was in the ring, had the U.S. title, and they had a mat on the ring, and they unveiled the Prime water bottle right front and center for the first time ever in WWE. I can only think of a couple of times in WWE's history when they had shit on the mat. Back in the Spectrum shows, I think Spectrum was on the mat back in the 80s, like the early 80s. Then it would be my WrestleMania 12 plaque. They had WrestleMania on the mat, remember? And then that same year, a couple months earlier, they did the Raw Bowl where they had like football shit in the ring. Other than those times, unless, and you guys can give me other examples, I just can't think of any. Other than those times, I can't think of any time in WWE's history where there's been actual shit on the ring mat. And back in WCW, I actually didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty cool when they would have the pay-per-view logo in the middle of the ring, or even the Nitro logo in the middle of the ring. All I ask is that WWE doesn't put a trap door under that Prime bottle, and I'm actually probably okay with this. It looks a little plain. I will say that. It's just the bottle. I feel like the Prime logo would have been better, but I feel like you got to have the bottle on there so people watching know it's fucking drink, I guess. But I feel like the logo would have been maybe better, maybe having it vertical. Shit, I don't know. But right now, it's just a bottle. This looks like a dildo in the middle of the ring, which is fine. I don't hate that. Maybe they'll expand on it or make it bigger or do something more with it, but that's a huge deal. And this is something that I don't think would have gotten done with Vince McMahon in full control of WWE. This is post-Vince type of shit. Remember when Brock Lesnar came back, when he re-signed in 2012, they let him put like Jimmy Johns and shit on his gear. And that was about as close as we got to this type of thing. So that's a big deal that Logan Paul now this puts him into bed even deeper with WWE. And the more he's there, the more he's doing big business for them, and the more he's delivering and entertaining in the ring on his promos and inside the ring, I think it's only a matter of time before he is a WWE World Champion. I think here's a prediction. Here's a prediction. I predict that within the next 2 years, I'm pushing my luck using one of these names. 2 to 3 years. I think Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio will both be WWE World Champions, winning one of the belts. Not at the same time or anything. I feel like Dominic could definitely win the World Heavyweight title one day. Maybe not the big WWE. He's not going to go out there and beat Roman clean in the middle on pay-per-view or anything. But I feel like Dominic could win the World Heavyweight title. And I feel like Logan Paul could win the WWE. Within the next 1, 2, 3 years, I feel like those are both likely possibilities. So after that, Logan Paul then introduces KSI. KSI comes down, and he's not there very long until Randy Orton's music hits. He comes down the ring for a sneak attack, goes for the RKO on Logan Paul. Logan Paul escapes, but RKO to KSI instead. And the homeboy sold it awesome. Did you see that? Like the way he just contorted? Great shit there. Loved that stuff. KSI, get him in the ring taking bumps more. I liked it. So RKO to KSI, that was fun. And Logan got away there. So right on. And that was the end of that first segment. But we would see Logan Paul again in a minute, because then we had a tag team match, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton teaming up to face Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. This was a fun match, and I love the finish. Pop-up RKO for the win on Austin Theory. That was great. After the match, Logan Paul comes in the ring from behind, attacks both from behind, puts on the brass knuckles, but Orton steals them away, and Logan ducks a knuckle shot from Orton that almost hits Kevin Owens, but Orton stops, and Logan Paul escapes again. We had a sit down with Bayley. Bayley is still trying to process what happened to her with damage control, and she's basically just focusing all of her efforts on WrestleMania 40 and her championship match. We saw, Naomi backstage with Bianca? Naomi's kind of like feeling bad for Bayley, and Bianca's like, fuck her, or whatever, which I kind of liked. But they're kind of planting that seed that Naomi might be there for Bayley, because they are, real life homies. They are. And Sasha and Naomi were close, as Sasha was with Bayley. So Naomi could maybe play the role that Sasha would be playing if she was in the company right now. So I think with Bayley having a little backup there in Naomi, that could help even the odds, because right now I still feel like, even though Bayley's got her back up against the wall, I feel like she has a better chance of winning the title right now than Becky Lynch, I kind of think. So Bayley, I feel like, might win. Becky Lynch might lose, but we'll see. Lashley defeated Karrion Kross via DQ. Authors of Pain hopped in the ring and got Kross disqualified. After the match, Kross and the Authors of Pain lay out Lashley and the Streets, and that we're probably heading to some sort of Mania match there, right? 6-man cage or some crazy shit. Maybe some where are they at? Where's WrestleMania? Philly. Maybe some. Maybe some Philly street fight or Philly ECW thing. I don't know. Shit. Some stip match, right? I feel like could be a part of WrestleMania this year with those wrestlers. And that's good, because Lashley better get on fucking WrestleMania this year. Came out and waved last year. Fucking trophy. Another big win here for Tiffany Stratton. They continue to roll her right along, beat Mia Yim with a moonsault. Mia Yim started to question her future in a network exclusive or .com exclusive or whatever. So Mia Yim, a little soul searching going on there right now with her. I love her. She's the best. She should be winning championships, I think. After that, we had an AJ Styles vignette. He was talking about traveling to Australia to attack LA Knight because he feels LA Knight doesn't belong in the WWE locker room and that shit. And then LA Knight's pissed and trashes a TV monitor. So obviously just building there to their WrestleMania deal. Dragon Lee defeated Angel Garza. That was fun. After the match, Legado del Fantasma beat down Dragon Lee. And then it was time for the big main event segment. And that was what headlined SmackDown last night. This was going to be the answer to Rock's challenge from Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And we had the Bloodline. Actually, before we talk about that, Rock also was busy on social media yesterday the same way he was the previous Friday. Previous Friday, he unleashed that 20-minute promo on Instagram. Here, he kind of did it again earlier on in the day from the Mesquite Rodeo. Where was it? The Mesquite Rodeo Arena. Got a cowboy hat on and talked shit about Pharaoh and said, "Off is the direction you can fuck." He was on a roll. And I loved it because he was just doing the same shit that he did the week before, just rocking, By the way, apparently the Rock concert is on its way back, I think next week maybe. So that is either going to be really great or really fucking horrible. We're not sure yet. So he does all that shit on social media again ahead of his promo on SmackDown, which I love that, like I said earlier, that The Rock is so all in on this WrestleMania build. He is not fucking around. The Rock means business, and he is here to play and play for real. And he's not going through any motions here. He is not walking through anything. He is doing his best to make this good. And as a fan, I appreciate that from The Rock. So now we're on SmackDown. It's the Bloodline. They're out first. Then The Rock comes out, and he's kind of got I've really wanted new Rock music, but it feels like it's not going to happen. Feels like it's not going to happen. We're not going to get that call back to his heel theme from 20 years ago. But he does have some lightning effects now. And then he's out there and he's doing the goosebump thing and all that. So he comes out and reminds everybody what the stakes are. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, by the way, they come through the crowd. There's a bunch of security out there, so they come down Shield style. They get in the ring. And as The Rock is talking, Seth Rollins interrupts him and tells him to shut up, Mr. Midlife Crisis, and winds up accepting the challenge for the team. Now, Cody was going to accept, but then Rock said, "Shut your mouth, boy," and then just started running his mouth, and then Seth interrupted him and got in his face right up to him and said, "We accept," which was great. Roman called Seth Rollins a cross-dresser, which got a few people talking online today. That's kind of maybe an outdated insult. I don't think anybody's trying to cancel Roman Reigns. I saw some of that. Oh, the woke losers are trying to cancel Roman Reigns. Like, no. I think it was a mild criticism of a line that, maybe shouldn't have been delivered, but I don't think anybody's going to cancel Roman Reigns over it. Not a big deal. He's a heel doing heel shit. Who fucking cares? But maybe, if I'm writing down TV, maybe that's an insult I'm not using in 2024. That's all I'm saying. But in terms of canceling the guy, get over yourselves. So Roman called Seth a cross-dresser. And I mean, I've talked about Seth and Becky Lynch sharing a closet. I say that with love, because they do. They share each other's underwear, the whole deal. You can tell. So Roman called him a cross-dresser, whatever. I think Rock called him a walking clown show emoji, which he kind of is, but that's why I love Seth. That's exactly what I like about Seth. I want him to get as obnoxious as possible. A couple years ago when Becky Lynch went heel, I think I was the only one who liked it. Everybody hated it. Every time she came out there with some contraption on her head that everybody was like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I like it." And I think I'm in the minority there. I think I'm the only one that likes really stupid shit. So I love Seth, and I love it. The crazier his outfits get, the happier Greg is. So Rock and Roman both remind Seth of what a fucking clown he is. And then after Rollins accepts, Rock reminds them yet again, this is a theme for him, that he is a TKO board member and he's their bosses, and he will do everything. He's going to do everything he can do to make sure that they both lose at WrestleMania, that Cody never wins the title. And he says, "Cody, if you don't, you're never going to get an opportunity to wrestle for that title again." And he said that he will just make that title disappear, is what he told Seth Rollins. So I don't know what that means, unless Rock is hinting at another unification or something like that. Shit. So then Rock proceeds to talk about his family being proud, and then brings up Cody's family. So here we go. Then Rock focuses attention on Cody and says, "You've got siblings, you've got sisters, and you have a brother, a Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame brother," which is cool. Him showing love to Dustin Rhodes, who did work with The Rock in his very first match ever at Survivor Series. And talked about his sisters too, but they're not 20 years older, just Dustin is. And he said the reason that his siblings are 20 years older was because you were a mistake. And that was going to be it. And I just said, here we go. I just kind of propped my feet up and crossed my arms and just waited for the slap to come. And here comes Cody with a big slap across The Rock's leathery football skin face, and his glasses fly off, and boom, there's your receipt, Rocky Maivia. So Cody slapped him hard. Rock just stood there. He didn't attack, but Cody and Seth then departed. I think they went up through the crowd again, left the same way they came in, and Rock got his receipt from the WrestleMania kickoff. So I liked that. It was a fun promo. Like I said, I feel like last week was more fun for some reason. Rock is just special. There's just no really other way to describe him other than special. He just brings a lot of energy. So I feel like last week felt a little more fun, but I do like that Cody was able to slap his fucking face. All that shit talking he does, it makes me laugh and it makes me want to fucking kill him at the same time. And I think Rock's doing a great job of being a heel. Like, I'm 46 years old. I appreciate good heel work, and so when I'm actually legitimately kind of irritated at you, oh, that means you're real good, And a couple of times during that cowboy hat fucking promo with The Rock at the rodeo, I'm like, this guy's the biggest fucking prick in the world. Oh, and I love it. He's so great. He's so tremendous. So now it's official, guys. It's official. It's Rock, Roman versus Cody and Seth, night 1. We know the stakes. If Rock and Roman win, bloodline rules for night 2. If Cody and Seth win, no bloodline, according to The Rock. I think we all can agree that it has to be bloodline rules on night 2. I said last week, I want WWE to overbook the hell out of this thing. I want Cody's mom running in. I want tuna casseroles. being shoved in the face of Roman Reigns. I want somebody's grandma running into the ring. I want fans hitting a shooting star press on Bloodline members. I want wrestlers coming back from the dead. I want every possible thing you can do in this match. Overbook the hell out of it and make it completely bonkers ridiculous. And have Cody win the title and finish his story. I think that would be so fun. But the only way to do that is for Seth and Cody to lose on night one. So I'm kind of feeling a WrestleMania 10 type of scenario here, where Brett lost to Cody, but then won the title in the main event. So I feel like on night one, Rock and Roman Reigns have to win. The finish I would do is The Rock pinning Cody Rhodes. Or Cody Rhodes taking the pin. I will say that. Maybe it doesn't have to be The Rock. I feel like The Rock would make the most sense for story, especially if you're going to do a Rock and Roman Reigns match in the future. But Roman could also pin Cody. That would also be fine, actually. But I think it would be better if it was The Rock pinning Cody. Just like Owen pinned Brett. Brett's got the hurt knee. Just took a huge loss. Confidence shattered. Got to go into the main event to wrestle for the title now. And with Cody, his situation will be even more dire because now it's bloodline rules. It wasn't bloodline rules in Yoko's match, even though he is the same fucking family. Cody's going to have to go in there with that confidence issue. Maybe they even do an injury angle with him. Remember what they did to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, how they absolutely demolished him before that main event? You know, something like that. Perhaps even putting Cody's... They could go way overboard with it if they wanted. They could put Cody's WrestleMania Night 2 status in jeopardy. They could injure him at the end of Night 1 to where The Rock's like, oh, I'll take your place. That was the plan all along, injure you, and I'm going to take your place now. And at the beginning of Night 2, announce that it's going to be Roman and Rock now in the main event because Cody's not going to wrestle. And then Cody makes the hero's entrance and takes back his spot and the match happens. Something like they could go really crazy if they wanted. That's probably a bit too much. I think The Rock being a double agent is a more likely scenario than that. But they could go that far with it if they wanted. But either way, I feel like Cody taking the pin on Night 1 is the finish to do. That way, it protects Seth a little bit. They're both taking a loss. It's not going to be like all about making Cody and Seth's going to be the loser. Because if Seth takes the pin and then loses to McIntyre and then Cody wins the title, it was like, Seth just got shit on there. But if Cody takes a loss, Seth does not, but then Seth maybe loses to McIntyre or is the victim of a Damian Priest cash-in. One of those two scenarios I think are all but guaranteed for Rollins. And then Cody winds up winning the title. And then maybe you've got Cody and Rollins, doing the Eddie and Benoit thing, where Rollins is out there. He lost the title, but maybe he comes out to congratulate Cody anyway. And like I said, based on everything that Seth has done for Cody, you would think that would earn him a good faith title shot from Cody. But I feel like they should save that one and separate these two in the draft or something and revisit it like next year and then do Cody and Seth for the title. But I feel like Night 1, it's got to be a Cody loss. Do you agree or not? Let me know in the comments. Let's go over here and read the chat real quick before we get into Dynamite, which was a Dynamite show. Brett lost to Owen. How did Cody teleport to 1994? Did I say Cody beat Brett? I might have. I was talking fast. Happens. Sonic Plays is starting to hate Cody and Seth. Roman and Rock are just cooler. Well, I like all four players involved here, but I don't know if I like Rock and Roman necessarily more. I really like Cody. I'm a big Cody fan. Cody and Mark right now. Thomas Aridia, thanks for the $2. I hope Pharaoh does a run-in at Mania. Oh, wouldn't it be great if he bit The Rock? Oh, man. They used to try to train Matilda to do shit. She was okay. She used to chase around Bobby Heenan like crazy. So I don't know if they could train Pharaoh to bite The Rock, but that would be funny if they did. I'd be into that. And The Rock's, limping around the ring. Maybe they put some fake blood on his calf or something. Like Pharaoh took a chunk out of The Rock's leg. Ultimate payback. I mean, with as many times as Rock has mentioned Pharaoh now, you have to wonder if at least behind the scenes backstage, if they haven't at least discussed, Rock going up to Cody and be like, what can your dog do? Like, can we get him to piss on my foot or something? Like, that would be really great. So who knows? They might have something up their sleeve there if they can work something out or do a camera trick to make it look like Pharaoh has done something to The Rock. Maybe shoot it, backstage, or shoot it behind the scenes where they can edit it and do shit with it. And I don't know, like Rock is talking. That's what you do. You just do a backstage thing where he's getting interviewed, coming into the parking garage, and then Cody comes up with Pharaoh on a leash and, has a quick little back and forth with The Rock. And then Cody walks off, and then The Rock's like, and he looks down and the camera pans down to see dog shit on The Rock's like $500 shoe. Something like that might be kind of funny. It would be better than whatever, what did Triple H and Stephanie, they run over a dog or something with a Jericho in the Jericho feud in like 2002. So don't be running dogs over, but maybe Pharaoh shitting on The Rock's shoe might be fun. How about that new Dynamite set? What did you guys think about that this week? I thought it was a nice change. I think it was a needed and welcomed change for AEW Dynamite. I like the color scheme of it, and they did a pretty good job of, kind of lighting up the crowd, kind of like how WWE does with those laser light looking things, and gave it a very lively vibe. And I think that was really important. Another thing that I really liked about Dynamite was the intro. When I saw that intro, I'm like, holy shit, that had quite a lot of attitude to it. It was right in your face. It was very WWE Raw 2000, like that type of blah, 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 boom. And then it's there and it's pretty fast. Like they don't waste a lot of time. They don't dig around. It's right there. It's in your face. It's high energy. And that's kind of what I wish Monday Night Raw had now. I've hated the last few theme songs Raw has had. And I kind of miss just the good old days of just the really intense intro. I feel like that's the way to do it. And Dynamite, their new intro is definitely inspired by the intros of the Attitude Era, for sure. And I liked it. I thought it was excellent. So not only do they have a nice new look and a nice new intro, they got a nice new set. The set's back, or the tunnels are back, I should say. They look like two condoms or something on each side. So it's a little bit different. And the lighting and the Tron and all that is good. But bringing back the tunnels, I think, is great because that should be, I think, a trademark. Now that they're going back to that, I feel like it's something that they should never stop doing. It should always be a part of their setup and their production is to have the tunnels. I like that a lot. And the overall look of the show was pretty good. Now, they were in Duluth, Georgia, I believe, and they only had about 3,000 fans there. So it was a pretty small arena. But on the bigger shows, the next 2 weeks, we're going to see pretty big Dynamites. They're in Boston for Big Business. That's got some pretty good ticket numbers. And Toronto, I haven't looked at them, but I would assume it's going to do more than 3,000 fucking people. So I feel like the next two will show you how good the show can look when you have a solid crowd in there. So the next two Dynamites should be very good, but I do like the new look. I think it's a step in the right direction. The show opened this week with Swerve Strickland coming out. Now, of course, he did not win the AEW title at Revolution. This was a babyface as hell promo from him. He even kind of admitted he lost the way babyfaces kind of do. I did not win. Samoa Joe did. Maybe this loss is karma for all the effed up shit I've done, is what he said. He went on to vow to still win the AEW title, which is what I said even in the Revolution predictions. I said Swerve will be AEW World Champion in the near future. It's just not going to be at Revolution. And now we have another pay-per-view in between now and Double or Nothing called Dynasty. And that could, in fact, be where it all happens. Now, Samoa Joe comes out, rags on Swerve, gives him a little shit for losing briefly, and that's when Swerve challenges him right there to a match. But Undisputed Kingdom comes out, and Adam Cole says, well, you can't do that because Wardlow is next in line. He won that scramble thing. So he's next in line, and he's actually going to be getting that title shot at Big Business. We would learn that at the end of this promo. So Cole wants Bennett and Taven to face Swerve and Samoa Joe in a match next week, but Shivani gets on mic and says that TK has announced that the match is going to be happening now. That entire opening segment was very WWE. Very WWE. Part of me thinks that that's good. They could use a little bit of that. I just don't want them to turn into that. A lot of WWE segments are formatted in this way. So that was definitely something that felt deliberate. And, they're trying to spice things up a little bit, opening with a promo like that leads to an impromptu match, that type of thing. That's WWE's trademark. And at least in this case, I thought it was pulled off pretty well because Samoa Joe and Swerve wound up beating very easily Taven and Bennett. Swerve did all the work on his own, wins the match alone, pinning Matt Taven. After the match, Wardlow comes out and turns his shirt into a bra. That was pretty funny. And as he comes out, Swerve is focusing his attention on Wardlow. Joe comes up behind Swerve, chokes Swerve out while staring a hole through Wardlow. I loved that. And like I said, Wardlow challenging Samoa Joe for the AEW World title this Wednesday at Big Business. That should be good. I feel like Joe's not losing yet, but I hate to see this be the end for Wardlow's one shot unless they plan to revisit this. I feel like, Wardlow, if they did put the title on him, a showdown with Adam Cole would only be natural, especially since Adam Cole has already said, if Wardlow wins, he's going to give me the title. And Wardlow's like, fuck you. So something's going to happen there, but I don't feel like Wardlow's going to be winning the title here. So I'm feeling maybe not a disqualification, especially if that's the main event. You might not want to do a DQ, but some crazy interference or something happening there that costs Wardlow the match, perhaps, unless Joe just straight up beats him. I don't know. Another possibility is the return of MJF. I feel like MJF could come back at any time. When he does, he might have some revenge to get on Wardlow, and Wardlow and MJF running it back 2 years later at Double or Nothing might be fun, and that would be a really fun championship match if you didn't have other people in line. And plus, when MJF comes back, I feel like even though he's going to be a main event player and a championship contender now for the rest of his career, I don't think he's going to immediately have that title back. He might get a title shot or something for sure, but he's not going to win it back. I feel like he had over a year with it, and now there are so many other people kind of in line that making him a two-time champ right now after that long run that he had wouldn't be the way to go. I would keep him relevant. I would keep him busy. I would keep him doing stuff, even giving him title shots, but not belting him right now. That's got to be Swerve. I think Swerve and even Wardlow and Ospreay and Adam Cole when he gets healthy, they're all in line, man, all of them. And don't forget about that Okada guy. He's also pretty good. We had crazy ass match. Little tiny ass Hook beat big ass Brian Cage in an FTW title match. We had thumbtacks out for this one. Both guys took bumps on the thumbtacks, which is just nuts. I don't even know if that was necessary, but that's Hook. That's Hook paying his dues right there, earning his tack and popping his thumbtack cherry there. I think that's the first time he's had a match with tacks, and he took a bump on those. And plus, he's working with somebody as big as Cage, who I think was kind of laying on him at the time. Looked brutal, man. Absolutely brutal. But in the end, he choked out Brian Cage to get the win and retain the title. The Mogul Embassy attacked Hook after the match, but Chris Jericho, who previously pledged his support to Hook in a backstage segment, came out to make the save there. And that was crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Hook retains the title. Killswitch beat Daddy Magic. One-on-one after the match, Daniel Garcia came down to make the save. Nick Wayne then jumped into the ring, and that's when they take out Garcia. And as they're leaving, Adam Copeland comes out and attacks Killswitch and Nick Wayne on the stage. Christian was on commentary for the match, so he was out there too. He sees all this happen and he darts off. So Copeland chases Christian through the crowd, over the barricade, through the back. I think Christian escapes, and Copeland talks to the camera, and that's where he lays out a big challenge for March 20th in Toronto. Cope Cage 3 for the TNT Championship in an I Quit match. Yeah. I like that. That sounds great. In Toronto, that's the best city to do that. Holy crap. So part of me would love to see that on Big Business, but shit, March 20th in Toronto, that's going to be your main event that night, I would assume, and that's a big one. That's a big one. I'm excited to see that. So that was all set up well, and we'll see. I guess Copeland's going to win the TNT title for the second time now, and what kind of a run is he going to have? I feel like that could be his opportunity to work with a whole bunch of young guys. I feel like if Copeland wins the TNT title, he's going to go on like a little bit of a mini tour, like Becky Lynch did the thing in NXT and stuff. I feel like it's going to be something like that, where he's going to try to hit as many people as possible and get as many people a rub as possible until he finds the right guy to drop the title to. That might be kind of fun. So it feels like it's a kind of a personal project for Copeland. I think if he does win the TNT title, that belt is designed not really for people like Christian and Copeland. You know what I mean? So I feel like if Copeland takes the title, he needs to pass it to a Garcia or someone like him. Would be the best course of action, I would think, for that. And maybe Copeland can give that title a run that is kind of remembered as, one where he gave everybody a chance. Darby did the same thing for that title. Orange Cassidy does that a lot for the International. And with Copeland, this gives him a chance to work with a lot of new opponents and get a lot more matches, under his belt there before he officially retires. So I liked it a lot. After that, we had the Young Bucks promo. Here we go. Of course, the Young Bucks were losers at Revolution, failed to win the AEW tag team titles. However, they're probably going to win that tournament or whatever they do whenever AEW decides how they're going to crown new AEW tag team champions. Feels like the Bucks are going to be the team to win them. They are now the EVPs, of course, and they are reminding everybody that they are everyone's boss. They're basically being like The Rock, only way weirder, because backstage they announced that they're going to have two big announcements tonight, and they did so in their little cheesy way, and they just smile, and they're being purposely sarcastic and ridiculous and douchey, which is perfect because that's who they are. So they come to the ring, they're mad, they say Sting and Darby Allin cheated. Of course they did. They cheated. So they also entered, whatever future tag team tournament or competition there was going to be for those titles. And then they went on to suspend Hangman Page from the Elite because he was putting his hands on officials and shit at Revolution. And they also said that Kenny Omega hasn't made any of his dates for no apparent reason. No apparent reason at all. Not diverticulitis or anything else like that. Just nothing. He just decided to no-show. So unfortunately, they had to fire Kenny Omega. So Hangman is suspended. This is due, I think, to Hangman taking some personal time off for whatever reason. So best wishes out to Hangman with whatever is going on there. And Kenny Omega is going to still be off TV for a while, assumingly, since he's recovering from his illness. So firing him storyline is a good way to bring him back when he's ready. So that was pretty good. I'm liking the Bucks character. They might as well go all out on just being assholes because they're really good at it. And that's when Eddie Kingston decides he's heard enough. He comes out in sweatpants and Timbs, as he calls it, and he gets in their faces and just says, basically just calls them out, and then the Bucks attack him, beat him down, and right when they're about to hit him with their EVP trigger, coin drop, oh shit, coin drop, all 3,000 of those people pop their asses off for Okada, who comes down to the ring, makes his debut in AEW, comes down to back off the Bucks, stands with Eddie Kingston, but then grabs Eddie and hits him with a Rainmaker. Oh, that was so great. Turned heel, smiled, shook hands with the Young Bucks. They announce him as the newest member of the Elite, and it sounds like he's going to be targeting that Continental Crown Championship of Eddie Kingston, and if he does face Eddie Kingston in a match for those championships, Eddie Kingston will not be winning that one. That's my opinion there. So, like I said earlier, I feel like Okada going heel was a really, really great decision because I was worried about what we would get out of him other than just the great matches that he has. Will Ospreay is the same thing. So far, Okada and Ospreay have exceeded my expectations. I was worried they were just going to come in and that's it, and be there and have some matches, have some issues form with some people here or there. But above, aside from that, maybe not doing a whole lot. But right off the bat, the Ospreay stuff with Don Callis and Takeshita was way better than I thought it would be. And now with Okada turning heel, I'm like, I like this. They're actually doing something with him right away. He's in a storyline now. He's heel, something new for him because outside of WWE, this guy is the man. So coming in and going heel now, this is a pretty big deal for him to join up with these guys who he goes way back with and has a friendship with. So there's real life there and it works. It really, really works. So we'll see how they can get this rolling. If they can get this over as a really fun heel group that fans, kind of love to hate, that also have pretty amazing talent and see how dominant they can be in the company. So it would be cool if, AEW could get something like WWE has with the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. That would be great, especially if these were groups that were primarily on one show. Like if the Bucks in a group can get running on Dynamite, and then over on Collision, I don't know who, but if you can just get something of equal value, give them both time to grow, and just see if you can build them into something, and then, have that natural confrontation somewhere down the line. That would be great. So when Kenny and Hangman come back, we could have some all-in matches. We could have blood and guts possibilities here. There's lots you could probably do whenever all the players get back involved in this. We'll see how it goes. But Kazuchika Okada coming in, going heel, loved it. Loved it. Fucking loved it. We knew we were going to hear from Darby Allin as well on Wednesday night, and we did. Darby Allin somehow still walking after that just ridiculous bump at Revolution. Off the ladder, through the glass. I couldn't believe it. I had to get up, walk away. I went and sat back there for a minute and a half and just breathed heavily. It was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Just fucking insane. And we've seen a lot of crazy stuff. We've seen Mick Foley in the Hell in the Cell. No bumps have given me a feeling like that since those bumps. This Darby one was the only time I was jump out of my seat freaked out by a bump since Hardy and Mick Foley. It's been a long time. We've seen some crazy stuff. We've seen it all now, but this one was just extra sick. And here Darby is walking out there. He's cut up and he's banged up and bruised up, but he's still there. He's still talking. And he does not waste any time to let us know what's going to happen with those tag team titles. He was like, he didn't even make a big deal about it, which I really liked. He goes, as far as this fucking title, which everybody's asking me, I can't replace the Icon Sting, so here you go. Good luck to whoever wins them. And that was it. And I like that. I don't think it was making the titles look bad or anything. That was making Sting look good. That was saying, look, I'm not an idiot. What am I going to do? Go find a replacement partner? There's no replacing Sting. This is what I said he would do in my predictions. I said he should just forfeit the title. It wouldn't really make sense for him to find a partner. It wasn't about that. His partnership was with Sting. That partnership is now over. Their tag team championship reign should also be over. So forfeit the titles, and now they can be free to have the Bucks win them. So Darby just hands those over right away, and he announces that next week at Big Business, he has a match with Jay White. That's awesome. Darby Allin, Jay White, I think the first time ever on Dynamite this week. Oh my God. Fucking great. And the reason he's got to have it this week is because he flies to climb Mount Everest on March 27th. So he's about to do that. I can't believe he even took a bump like that so close to climbing that mountain. You'd think you would want to be in the peak physical form for that and not banged up or bruised or having, issues. And I hope any injury that he suffered in the glass bump doesn't affect his climb to Mount Everest. And he even acknowledges the fact that he might not be back. He might not live through it. And that's a very real possibility. People die up there. There's fucking bodies scattered all across the route up there, just frozen in time, totally preserved, not going anywhere. And if Darby dies up there, that's where Darby will stay. There's no coming back, like for real. There's no funeral. Or, there's a funeral, but there's no body to be shown because it's up on the mountain, frozen, a Darby sickle. And I don't want a Darby sickle. I want a alive Darby. I want a warm-bodied Darby, not a Darby sickle. So I'm terrified for him. I think people climbing Mount Everest, I understand and appreciate people wanting to push themselves and test their limits. Elizabeth climbs Mount Whitney here once a year at least. She's done it a bunch of times, and that's a boss climb. And I'm proud of her. She kicks ass. But that's not going to kill her. She just really, really tests herself physically, and she crushes it. So I understand that motivation. I appreciate and respect people who want to do that. But this is just, to me, an unnecessary risk, just like jumping off the ladder through a pane of glass was. And when I said to everybody who is bitching about him taking that bump, it wasn't necessary, and it's not wrestling, and blah, 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 and mud show, and whatever, First of all, shut up. You sound like idiots. You all say the same shit, unoriginal chodes. But also, you got to understand that some people are just fucking nuts. And so I'm telling myself the same thing, even though I think it's idiotic to go to Everest, just like a lot of fans thought it was idiotic for him to take that bump. It's Darby. It's Darby. I'm not doing it. My siblings, my family, my spouse, nobody like that is doing it. Darby's doing it. He's crazy. You got to accept he's going to do what he's going to do. Just like Hardy was going to do what he's going to do, and Mick Foley was going to do what he was going to do, and this is what Darby wants to do, so let him do it. This is how he chooses to live his life. And if you want to live life balls out and take risks knowing that you could lose your life, that is their choice, and they are accepting that as a possibility. And even though it might be tragic if he does die up there, it's going to be what he wanted to do. And at the end of the day, that's why it's not my place to tell him if it's right or wrong. So I just want him to come back in one piece and alive and be able to wrestle again, because the style that Darby Allin wrestles isn't going to give him really a 25-year career, I don't think. And I feel like we need to appreciate Darby while we have him. And as if the dude doesn't take enough unnecessary risks as it is when he's in the ring, he's climbing Everest and shit. And so if he does successfully climb Mount Everest, what I worry about him, people like Darby, he's going to want to find something more extreme. Then he's going to want to take a SpaceX rocket into low orbit and jump with a parachute. And because there's always the next thing, you know? So what's the next thing after Everest? I don't even want to know. So what's cool about this is Jay White then comes out with his boys, makes his jokes, and Darby said, since you're one of the best, most decorated wrestlers in the world, you come into AEW, you haven't done jack shit except play with a cardboard cutout, which Jay did not like. And he said, if you're as good as you say you are, you'll face me next week without your boys around. And then, this is kind of cool, he got up to Jay White and whispered something in his ear, and Jay White definitely reacted, not in an aggressive way at all, like, oh shit kind of thing, and then just walked away, and it got his attention. So what did he whisper? What was that about? I like it. I like that they're making you wonder about stuff. Stories, right? But we're not going to know anything about that whisper until, well, I guess maybe next week. But after that, if there's going to be some long-term storyline here between these two, that's going to be paused while Darby goes and risks his life. And then in the main event, I'm not talking about all of Dynamite here, just the choice nugs. The main event of Dynamite was tremendous. My God, Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, amazingly fun match. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Ospreay is the real deal. I think physically in the ring, in between the ropes, he is the top tier, best in the world. There's plenty of arguments to be made for others. I'll accept them all. Whatever you think is fine. I don't give a shit. This is who I think it is. And he has really kind of come into his own the last few years. He's filled out, becoming a really fun promo now, really liking his demeanor. He's coming across as a main eventer. He has presence. He commands presence. And what he can do in the ring is really tough to top anywhere right now. And the match with Kyle Fletcher, this is what AEW does. They give you the fucking crazy spots, the poison ranas, and just the brutality, the bumps, the neck bumps, the near falls. That's what they give you. You don't see these matches in WWE. You see great matches in WWE, great wrestlers over there, all of them, tremendous workers. Just kind of their TV style is a little bit different, and that's what you want. You don't want two companies doing the exact same style of matches with fucking shaky ass cameras and commercials timed in the exact same spot every fucking match. And everything is so formulaic. You get that in one company, where you get your storytelling and your pageantry and all of that, and the amazing, production style and capabilities of the WWE and the superstars they create and the memories they make. You have all of that over there. And then you got AEW, the other one that just does crazy stuff. And that is what is great about pro wrestling. Why is everybody so against this idea, the tribal ones out there? Am I not the only one that thinks this is balls out fucking awesome? That you got one company doing this and another company doing that. And if you are a wrestling fan, you should find things in one or both of these companies that you like. And if you focus on the negative and what you don't like, what does that say about you? Look at what we're looking at right now. It's WrestleMania season. Things are great in terms of WWE until the next shoe drops on the Vince McMahon scandal, and we got a whole new slew of, disgusting underbelly stuff to discuss. But for right now, things are riding good. Attendance is high. Ratings are good. Interest and enthusiasm is off the charts for WrestleMania 40. AEW's got a new look. A lot of free agents coming in, turning the corner themselves, offering you a different style of product than what we've seen from Vince and WWE for the past 24 years now, or 23 years since the buyout of WCW. This is about as good as we could ask for it to be right now. So what the fuck is the problem? That's my question to all of you assholes out there. Tonight's Collision, by the way, which is about to go live in 12 minutes, this was taped on Thursday, I think. So are they doing a Wednesday, Thursday taping schedule now? Is that what they're doing? So I think it was taped Thursday. Anyway, I think they're in Georgia again. Yeah, they are, because we have an Atlanta street fight with House of Black taking on Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett. We've got Chris Jericho versus Titan. We got Mystico versus Angelico. Danielson versus Shane Taylor. We got Mariah May in action. The first ever Tony Storm Award, I guess, and the debut of the new Elite, which will be the Bucks and Okada. So that's what's going on Collision tonight. I have made it to the end of my notes with 12 minutes to spare, so that's lovely. Double thumbs up for Greg. Thank you guys again for being here. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button for me, and I'm going to go to the chat and see what you guys have to say about stuff. Here's a super chat from Mike Witt, my boy. Mr. Midlife Crisis was the best line. Yeah, Rock always feels like he's having a midlife crisis, but he's good at it, and I got to give it to The Rock. I mean, he's kind of older now. You can definitely see it in the face. I called him a football-skinned freak a minute ago because he's got that. I'm getting it too. It's like you just get old. Now you can start seeing it in your skin. You're not as blemish free as you used to be. And Rock, even though he's kind of got the old face going, he still just looks physically as good as he's ever looked. I thought in 2012 when he got back in the ring, he looked pretty damn good. I'm like, man, he looks amazing. And he's 11 years older than that, 12 years older than that, but he still looks great. And he still plays the role, and he still just works hard. He's incredibly dedicated to keep himself in that physical condition. And we're somehow, because of that dedication, we're able to, at this stage of his life, be able to get him in the ring. And it's going to be interesting to see how he is physically in the ring when we get to WrestleMania. I would assume that if he's putting this much energy and effort into the storytelling and the promo of this, he's going to want to make sure he puts the same type of effort in being trained and ready physically for the match. Now, hopefully, nature will not rear its ugly head the way it did on Shane McMahon, and he'll go out there and tear a quad in the first 5 seconds. But if he's able to just go out there and work issue-free, it'll be interesting to see how he does, in the ring, and how crisp those people's elbows are and how much work he actually sees in there. I mean, he's going to get all the greatest hits. You're going to do the punches in the corner and the spit on the hand, and, he's going to do a people's elbow, and he's going to do the float over reversal into the DDT thing. He's been doing that since the warehouse. Obviously, Rock Bottom will be in there somewhere, and I don't even know what else he does. I think he likes the sharpshooter. He's a sharpshooter guy. He likes to punch. Definitely likes the DDT. Yeah, he does some stuff. He likes a crossface occasionally. So we'll see how fun he gets and how well his in-ring work looks, because it won't be the last time we see him. This will give us a good indication of how he'll look whenever he faces Roman Reigns, when that match happens down the line. Nikita, good to see you, man. Appreciate the 249. I fear Darby jumps off Everest on glass. I don't even know if you could jump off of it. Really, you could slide down it, but I do think the big, danger is the crevasses, the giant fucking crevices in the ice that just are bottomless pits. You fall down that, you're gone. Or you just fucking freeze to death up there. So there's just too much, and it's so janky. The people the guides that take you over there, they just lay like ladders across, and you're just crawling over these like self-made bridges. It's just, my God, I just do not understand why you would want to risk your whole life on whether or not a ladder holds up as it's being stuck on some ice. I'd rather take my risk by skydiving or something. You know, if you're just crawling on a ladder, the ladder breaks and you just fall through a crevasse and then you get stuck in there and then you're just laying there and it takes you 6 hours to die. Is that what you want to be doing? Not me. He was born to be wild. That's true, Deshaun. Juliet's got 2 more for us. Missed the end with Danielson Ospreay. Oh, shit. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, I saw it. What the hell happened? Did he come out? He didn't get physical, did he? Did he just come out there? Did they attack? I know Fletcher and Ospreay shook hands, right? I can't remember what happened at the end of that. At the end of that, Juliet. Mike Witt, thanks for the 2. I'm thinking Cena or Austin gets involved at WrestleMania. I would like to see one or both of them come out in a surprise. I kind of pitched the, you know how they did at WrestleMania 30 with Rock, Hogan, and Austin? Maybe do something like that, but have it be with Cena and Austin and maybe Rock, but Rock's busy. But that would be quite the visual, those 3. Maybe even bring Undertaker out there. Maybe another legend. I don't know. Or maybe just Cena and Austin together doing something fun. The kings of their respective eras doing something. I'd be into it. I hope that they do that because it felt like there was a few years where we weren't really getting that. Felt like every year at WrestleMania, we were getting some surprises. Like somebody would just return. Like The Rock came back and then all the legends of the Foley, Austin, HBK beat up the League of Nations. We had segments like that at WrestleMania, and even The Rock and Cena, right? Rock came out that year, set his name on fire, and then him and John Cena, I think, beat up the Wyatt family or something. So we've had instances like that before. And I think Cena and Austin, it would make more sense for them just to do something fun as like a nostalgia throwback, I think, than getting involved in an actual match or storyline, unless maybe it was with Theory and Waller. They'd probably be the only ones that would make any sense. That would actually be kind of cool now that I think about it. Well, I think they said if Cena is involved, he can't get physical because he's filming a movie. I feel like a Waller effect with Theory out there and Cena and Austin maybe is something they could do, just like they did on Piper's Pit, you know, with Austin all those years ago, and then maybe Austin and Cena beat the shit out of Waller in Theory. I don't know if that's good enough. I'd rather see that on SmackDown than WrestleMania, but maybe something like that. I could see that. Michael Cuomo, appreciate the $4.99. I do hope that Theory, Waller, and Logan Paul are officially a trio, but they don't need a name. Yeah, they actually, I could see Waller and Theory both being pretty good henchmen for Logan Paul. I feel like with Waller and his presence, there could be eventual power struggles there too. And that is oh man, what a douche trio. What name would they have? I guess you're right, they don't need a name, but man, that's a whole lot of asshole right there. Throw out your suggestions for faction names for Waller, Logan, and Theory. Hogan, Brett, Austin, and Cena would be fun. Yeah. I mean, would they bring Brett in for this? I mean, if Brett came down, we got Brett's music. It's a long ramp for a lot of these old men. But yeah, what if Austin and Brett shared a ring again at WrestleMania? I think they didn't. Austin was not the referee in the 26 match, right? With Brett and Vince. But he was there for the contract signing. Yeah, but having Brett and Austin maybe back in the ring might be fun. Or even, Rock being out there, because the last time WrestleMania was in Philly was WrestleMania 15, and I was at that show, up in the nosebleeds, horrible seats, no binocs, no nothing, no camera, just my ticket. And Rock and Austin was the main event, so maybe Rock and Austin could revisit that. If Rock wasn't so busy with everything he's doing, I would love to see Rock sell a stunner in 2024, just for old time's sake. 25 years, quarter century after that match happened. That's insane. Cena, Batista, Goldberg. No way. Fuck that. Cena and Batista, I'd be fine with, if Batista came back and got in the ring too. If it was like Cena, Batista, I guess just them. Can't bring Brock back. I was trying to think of that like OVW crew. Randy Orton's probably going to be busy wrestling Logan Paul. But Batista, if he came back with John Cena to maybe, a couple of actors, wrestlers gone Hollywood, coming to smack around a couple guys. I don't know. That could be fun. I'd be fine with it. 2 more from Mike Witt. With Vince gone now, do you think Owen gets into the Hall of Fame? I don't think it had anything to do with Vince. And I don't think it's going to matter anymore because Triple H, I don't think it's going to be really any different. He's been great with bridging the gap before. And he was friends with Owen, but not necessarily Brett. He was able to, excuse me, he was able to get through to Warrior. He was able to get through to Bruno. But I don't know if that's something they even want to explore. Martha Hart has a relationship with AEW. She seems perfectly happy with that. I don't think that she would want to do business with WWE while doing business with them. I just don't think Owen is a possibility. I think Martha, it doesn't matter who really owns WWE. It's always going to be them. So something's going to have to come around with her and her family. So she's going to have to change her mind, or maybe after she passes away, her kids change their mind. I don't know, but I'm not too worried about Owen in the Hall of Fame. I don't need him there. It's a bullshit Hall of Fame. Owen died tragically, and we're coming up on the 25-year anniversary of that, and it still scars me just like it did the same damn day. It's so horrible that happened. And if it hurts the fans as much as it does, just imagine when it's done to Martha. And she has every fucking right to make a personal decision to herself to never talk to those fuckers again. Even if you don't agree if she's right or wrong, you got to at least understand her position. So I don't need Owen in the Hall of Fame. I don't really care. If he goes in one day and his family approves, awesome. If not, the world will just keep on spinning. Brock Lesnar, thank you for that bonkers. I'm reading through some of these comments here. Brock Lesnar is back on the WWE roster page. I will say this about Brock. I kind of feel like he's going to have to be back at some point. But it's hard to figure out how that's possible right now. They took him off the video game. It feels like they have no choice but to distance themselves from him now. Maybe after all the Vince stuff is over, they can bring him back and feel like, the implication of his name and what he was kind of his involvement, what he was accused of in his involvement anyway, maybe is forgivable in their eyes or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know how they deal with that, because if Brock is forever blackballed from WWE now, what is his future? Does he even try to get back in the business, or is he just done for good? How has this affected him and his family? I wonder with all of that. How does Sable feel about all this? I don't know. I don't know any of that shit. So, but I still feel like at some point Lesnar is going to have to at least be back, because it's really tough to even ignore him at this point. Paul Heyman's about to go in the Hall of Fame. We're going to get a Paul Heyman video package. And granted, he has tons of non-Brock material, and they could just omit all of that, but that's a big part to omit. So I don't know how they're going to handle that going forward. We will see. But apparently he is back on the roster page. So we'll monitor that situation. Michael Cuomo has 5 more. If I had a wrestling stable, it would be called Status Cuomo. Oh, yeah. I like it. That's a good one. Start training. Maybe I can be your manager. I think I'm too old to wrestle at this point, but I'll be your manager. Give me a prop, something like that. A tennis racket, a megaphone, a cane. I'll be a great manager. But anyway, it is now 1 minute past the top of the hour, and Collision is now on the air. So if you are Collision watchers, go check that out. I got to get out of here and head to work anyway. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this afternoon on the podcast. It was a lot of fun. Don't forget, we're going to be back here tomorrow night to watch WrestleMania 5 together. That's going to be our Sunday night watch along tomorrow. And we will be live 24 hours from this very moment tomorrow night watching WrestleMania 5 and the Mega Powers explode. Let me hit this last one from Mike Witt, $2. Appreciate that, man. Imagine Dustin getting involved in night 2. That would be great. I would really love that. That would, again, take a little bit of cooperation from AEW. WWE did allow, Lex Luger and stuff to go to Sting's retirement if they weren't shown on camera. So AEW would have to let Dustin be shown on camera. I don't know. Dustin getting involved, though, would be a great surprise, because I don't think anybody would really see that coming, because he's a contracted AEW star. But I don't know how you get something like that done. I mean, Dustin going to Tony Khan and being like, dude, please look. Maybe Tony Khan will go for it, especially if he demands something in return from WWE. Maybe this is something he could take advantage of. I'll let you do this in exchange for a future favor down the road. Like, I might need some footage. I would totally do that. Yes, I've always been a fan of that idea and a believer that the companies should maybe work together in small little areas here or there. We're talking WrestleMania main event, so this is big, but maybe lesser important situations, maybe little concessions like that could get done. That would be great. But the better AEW starts doing, the more WWE's going to, they're going to be petty towards each other and stuff. So it's going to be really hard for them to get along, but it would be nice if something like that could be worked out. As a fan, I would love it. Absolutely would love it. So fingers crossed one day. You guys take care. Thanks again.